Okay, I should be back up now, bro.
Okay, I got it.
All right, so let's go ahead and discuss the NFL playoffs.
Yes,
Borowski,
sir. This is the
Beard, what you got?
we got the pilot episode. Got the pilot episode of the Playmakers coming to you live with Big J and the Beard, and we are glad to be here. But yeah, like my brother said, talking about the NFL playoffs, 2020 NFL playoffs. So we're going to dive right into the action here as we had the Indianapolis Colts visiting the number 2 seeded Buffalo Bills yesterday, and Josh Allen again proving himself as Buffalo winning their first playoff game, and I believe since
1995.
1994 or 5.
1995. 1995.
1995.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Joe, for that.
Yeah,
And
Jay, that'd be Jay.
Joey,
That'd be Jay to you, my friend. That'd be Jay.
all right, Jay. Uh, Tell me, what was a couple things that you liked about Josh Allen in that game yesterday?
Well, I tell you what, he stood strong in the pocket, read the defense really well, and he showed his mobility for a big guy as a quarterback. And you know, everybody gave John Elway flack because that's who Elway really liked in that draft because he's a big white guy, and they thought, oh, well, that's who Elway wants. Well, guess what? That guy is everything that Elway wanted, and unfortunately, he plays in Buffalo instead of in Denver. But he proved his status as an MVP candidate, and he showed that he is poised under pressure, even despite the towards the end of the game there where he got himself in a little bit of trouble, but his team was able to prevail. I tell you what, you watch that guy when he ran his that touchdown in the third quarter. You see the teammates rallying around this guy. This guy is a leader, and he is definitely somebody I'm excited to watch in the future. Especially somebody that's not named
Absolutely.
Patrick
Absolutely.
motherfucking Holmes, because that guy can suck my fat dick. I'm sorry. Can we cuss on
Exactly
this radio
right
show?
about
I don't
that.
know. I don't know about that.
I don't know. I don't know.
What?
We're all new here.
All right. All right. Well, let's go ahead
But
and move
one
on.
thing,
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Big beard. Go ahead.
one thing, one one thing that you mentioned that I wanted to touch on real quickly was you talked about Josh Allen's leadership.
Yes.
Now that is something he's been in the league for 3 years.
Yep.
And hasn't been something that has happened overnight. It's been, gradual over these last couple of years, and he's shown that leadership. And every year you can see Buffalo just taking small strides forward every year.
Yep. Yep.
You look at last year in the playoffs. They drew they drew a tough card in the wild card ran playing Houston.
Yep.
And Buffalo even possessed the lead in that game for the majority of the first half, and then second half with turnovers. But yeah, touching on that, the leadership, the poise that he showed was really incredible. Now, before we do go to our next game, Joey or Big J, what are the chances? Do you think Philip Rivers is going to make a return for a 18th season next year?
I think the chances are good. However, I don't think the chance is good that he's going to end up in Indianapolis. I believe the Colts are going to go ahead and let him walk, despite the fact that he was a pivotal part of that team and their playoff run. I believe they want to find somebody else that can lead that franchise into the future. Philip Rivers, let's not forget he was just a band-aid for that team after Andrew Luck rather. Uh, kind of just out of the blue retired, and all they had was a nig at quarterback, and obviously nobody wants that. So, they looked for a white guy in Philip Rivers, and they found him, and he did his part. That's a solid team over there in Indianapolis. I think he does come back as an 18th season, for his 18th season rather, but I honestly don't think it's going to be for the Colts. But I think they'd be wise to keep him even if they do get a young quarterback, because the expertise and the experience of that veteran quarterback, it just, I mean, it's, I put Phillip Rivers right below, you know, say Jay Cutler, Earl Morrall, I put. I couldn't say that on the straight rate. I'm sorry. But the experience that guy has, he can help a young guy come up and help lead that Colts organization, because they've got a solid team. They're good on defense. They're good on offense. I honestly expected the Bills to blow them out, and the Colts were there all the way to the end, and they even were benefited from a bullshit no fumble call by the Colts, which should have been a fumble and should have been a Bills recovery to end the game. But the Colts have a solid team, and they really are contenders in the AFC. And quarterback's not the worst position, but I don't think Phillip Rivers is going to be there next year.
I gotcha. Okay.
Sorry for these. I'm a little long-winded there. A little long-winded.
Right. Not a problem. That's why we're here. We're here to discuss, and who cares how long it goes. But also, did just want to mention that Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger, the only two remaining quarterbacks from that 2004 draft class. So that's something to think about there, too.
What about Eli Manning? Where's Eli at?
Well, Eli Manning, since he did retire at the end of last year. Did he actually
retire? Okay.
He did. He retired at the end of last year.
I believe Ron Burgundy did a interview with Peyton a couple years back, and he did speak of Eli, I believe is what his name is actually pronounced as. He did. Yeah. So all right.
He did speak of Eli and Danielle Manning as well. So.
All right, let's move on to the NFC. So go ahead, Beard. What you got?
Okay. Well, I was going exactly where you were going.
All right. Well, let's
Rams at Seahawks.
Oh, that's not where I was going, but let's go ahead and head there. Toss-up. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I thought that's where you were going. My bad. Rams at Seahawks.
Yeah, honestly,
that's for me. In
we need to stop stepping on each other. We need to stop stepping on each other. It's like you're a few seconds behind me or something, because I start talking. And then I'm trying to interrupt you, but you don't hear me interrupt you until like 5 seconds later.
Oh, well, we need to get that cleared up then.
Yeah. So
go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So, but what I was going to say was the Rams and the Seahawks, that game surprised the fuck out of me, because I honestly expected the Seahawks to drill the Rams. The Rams with their freaking ugly ass bone uniforms on the road. Those are the worst freaking uniforms in the league right now. And for that fact right there, that's why I didn't give them a chance against the Seahawks. Even though I don't like Russell Wilson, and I really don't like freaking Pete Carroll. The Rams surprised me. I watched that game for just a little bit, and I was surprised that the Rams were keeping pace with the Seahawks. But the Seahawks, maybe this was a bad loss. Seahawks came into that game 12-4. What were they ranked? 2 or 3 in the NFC?
They would have been the let's see here. They would have been the 3 seed, I believe.
So that's a devastating loss to the Seahawks. So I expect wholesale changes. Russell Wilson will be a free agent. He will be in Denver next year. I expect Pete Carroll to hang himself in the locker room. But as far as the Rams go, I mean, they did what they needed to do. Their third down efficiency was horrible, but the Seahawks was worse. They outplayed the Seahawks. They outgained the Seahawks. But in all honesty, even though Jared Goff did not look good, he did not look strong, the Rams defense is what stepped up and gave them that victory. But it is super, really, for me, surprising victory for the Rams.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I actually gave the Rams a better chance of beating Seattle with their backup, John Wolford. Unfortunately, he suffered a neck injury early in the first quarter.
Did he break his neck on the third
thought
stringer?
They'd have a better. No, he did not. He was taken away by ambulance though in that first quarter, so that was a little bit scary for him. But honestly, I gave the Rams a better shot to win with Wolford starting at quarterback as opposed to Jared Goff. But Goff went 9 for 19, nothing flashy, $155 and one
Right.
touchdown.
Right.
But unfortunately, the game changer in this game was that pick six that Russell Wilson threw in the second quarter. I think that was huge for momentum. And even though there weren't any fans in the stadium, still momentum does possess a huge factor.
Well, I tell you what.
Especially being. Go ahead.
I paused for you to finish.
Oh, okay. But yeah,
that was like 5
just like I
minutes
was
ago.
saying, momentum still being huge, even with no fans in the stadium. And I think that was the changing factor in that game. You take away that pick six, you got a 3-point game late in the fourth quarter, and Russell Wilson still able to have a little bit of that magic that he's possessed in his career so far. So I still like my chances with the Seahawks being down 3 as opposed to 10 that they lost by late in the game. Things happen.
Yep.
But I think that pick six was a definite turning point.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Without fans in the stands, that completely takes away any home field advantage that any team has, depending on the weather, obviously. But I tell you what, I think that is a completely different game if their fans are in the stands for the Seahawks, because even with Russell Wilson's turnover, the pick six, he did go 11 of 27 for 174, 2 touchdowns, and that one big interception. But I still think that with the fans in the stands, the Seahawks were able to pull that out, because Jared Goff and that offense would have been confused with the noise. Obviously, the Seahawks have the loudest home field thanks to the engineering of their stadium, not because their fans are better than anybody else's, but just because of their stadium. That it's so loud on the field. And I tell you what, I've played there before when I was Paxton Lynch a couple years ago, and I tell you what, it is definitely a difficult place to play in.
Exactly right. So now moving on to the nightcap game that was last night.
Yep.
Sticking in the NFC.
Yeah, let's go ahead and stick it in there to the NFC. I tell you what, this game, I was super impressed. We're going to stick it where we want to. I was so goddamn impressed by Heineke, or whatever the fuck his name is, Taylor Heineke.
Yeah.
This guy.
Yeah, Taylor Heineke.
The funny thing is that there's tons of Bronco fans, and as anybody who knows Big J and the Beard, we are huge, diehard Bronco fans. There are plenty in Bronco country that think that Tyler Heineke is better than Drew Lock. Well, give me an effing break, because that is the furthest from the truth. Tyler Heineke had a great game, and he read that Buccaneers defense. That Buccaneers defense is not soft. Those guys are good, but I tell you what, he stepped up and he played a spectacular game for them. Washington, I don't give a shit what the PC people say, but they are still the Washington Redskins to me. But he stepped up and he played so well for the Redskins. He threw for 306 yards. He had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. His QBR was 63.3. That's not bad at all. And he stepped up and played so well. He read those zone defenses that Tampa Bay was throwing at him. He was finding the soft spots in the zones, and it was just very impressive. He was mobile. He showed his athleticism. And I tell you what, he is somebody that the Redskins can go with in the future, without a doubt. The Redskins are a playoff team from here for at least for the next 4 years. I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. Mark it, stamp it, Redskins in the playoffs next year with Heineke as their quarterback.
I would have to agree with that. I was too, just like you. I was extremely impressed by his poise in the pocket, because the MO for Tampa is, or especially with Todd Bowles, is they blitz. They blitz probably,
Absolutely.
I would say 67% of the time.
Yes.
First down is really the only down they don't blitz, but second down they led the NFL with a 72.6 blitz percentage on second down.
Now,
and you had to be impressed with his poise.
Yeah. I tell you what, that is specific stats, and I greatly appreciate that.
You are very welcome. You are very welcome. But anyway, I was extremely impressed
My balls itch.
by Heineke, and I honestly do think now. Not exactly sure what's going on with Alex Smith. I know he was injured last handful of games, and he's coming off a horrific leg injury.
Oh, it was
which I mean, he's
horrible.
just glad to have both legs, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. That guy's a beast.
But with Ron Rivera at the helm, I've always liked him. I think he's a very good coach. I have no doubt that Washington will be back to win that NFC division next year. However, New York Giants are on the up and up. Joe Judge, another good coach that I like. He has his boys playing good.
Is he black?
Not really concerned with Philadelphia because no, he's not. He's actually white. Joe Judge is white.
I'm on board then.
And,
Trump.
Philly. I mean, they have a lot. They have a lot to sort out over there in Philadelphia, and not too concerned about them. And then, of course, Dallas is going to be Dallas. They'll start good, and then they'll falter later on, like they always do.
Well, Dak Prescott, with that gruesome and nasty injury that he had, he's going to be gun shy. He's going to, his career's over. Let's just go ahead and mark it right there. His career is completely over.
Well,
and,
yeah. That was the other thing too. They were talking to Jerry Jones on 103.5.
Well, he knows everything. That guy
in Dallas, and I don't know about you, but I am still shocked that they haven't been able to lock Dak Prescott down on a long-term deal. Now, if they're going to plan on franchising tagging him again for this coming year, I mean, they're putting out another 40-some million, I think, for a one-year deal.
Yeah.
If memory serves me right, that's what the franchise tag is running for quarterbacks.
Probably.
So I don't know. So the question has to be asked, where does Jerry Jones go from here? He paid Ezekiel Elliott, which Ezekiel Elliott has not shown what he's worth. He was good in his first couple of years.
Yep. He's got Joe Flacco.
He has been.
He's got Joe Flacco syndrome, and he got paid, and then he laid down. Yep.
Yeah, he got paid, and now he's taking it easy.
He got paid, and then he got laid.
We'll see what happens. But with Michael,
Big J,
Michael Irving,
Big J has a strong drink over here.
But if you talk to Michael Irving, he'll be saying, "Oh, this is going to be the year. This is going to be the year."
All those Cowboys guys always say that. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on now. Let's go ahead and move on. Just final. This final just in. The New Orleans Saints defeat the Chicago Bears 21-9, and they will move on and face who the fuck are they going to play? I don't even know.
They will play Green Bay.
They will play Green. Oh, and that hopefully they.
No. Correction. No. Correction. Tampa Bay will play Green Bay because Tampa is the 5 seed.
In the cold and
New
the
Orleans,
snow.
Yep.
So New Orleans will travel or will play at home next week against the Rams. No.
Against the Rams, correct.
Yeah,
that's right. They are the higher remaining seed.
All right, so the Saints 21-9, a difficult game. The Bears played pretty well in this game. I watched a little bit of it. I had it in the background while I was washing dishes.
Honestly,
What's
Jay,
that? Talk to me, Goose.
I don't think that's right because if let's see here, the Saints were the higher seed. The Saints were the higher seed because they had the home game.
The lowest
so
seed would play the 1 seed. Who's the 1 seed? Packers? Packers
Green
are the
Bay
1 seed.
Is correct.
So the Packers will play the lowest seed, which would be the Rams, so the Rams will go to Green Bay. Were the Buccaneers? What seed were they?
Oh, well, the Bucs had to be 5 because Washington was 4.
I don't have the piss, man.
So New Orleans will play God, I don't even know. I need a bracket here
Hold
in
on.
front of me, which I don't
I'm
have.
I'm pulling up one right now. All right, so our playoff bracket is as such in the NFC. The Packers are the 1 seed, the Saints are the 2. So the Saints will play at home against the Buccaneers. And the Rams are a 6
Okay.
seed. They will travel to Green Bay and play in the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. So next week we will have the Saints at home against the Rams, who are the 6 seed, and the 5 seed Buccaneers will travel to Green Bay, a place that the Buccaneers have always struggled playing in the cold and the snow, hopefully in the snow. For all of us who love
Hmm.
football, that's what's going to happen there. But anyways, let's go back. Let's go ahead and
Absolutely.
take a step back and let's talk about the Saints game. I didn't watch all that much of it, but what I did see was that the Bears figured something out against the Saints. They forced turnovers. They were able to kind of hold the Saints. They were kind of hold the Saints in check, if you will. Um, the Saints were 11 for 17 on third down, where the Bears were 1 for 10. So the Saints defense isn't all that bad, even though the Bears offense is god awful at this point in the season. How they made
Hmm.
the playoffs I mean, I'm still scratching my butthole to try to figure out how that happened. But they did force one turnover. Unfortunately for the Bears, they only got a field goal out of that turnover on I don't know if they ruled it interception or a fumble, but it was caught out of midair on a passing play. Um, but anyways, the point is that the Saints have a lot of firepower on offense. I'm not sure how good New Orleans defense is because the Bears offense is not great, but the Bears defense is pretty solid.
Right. Right. Bears, I believe, had a top 10 defense coming into this game.
Yeah, absolutely,
Um,
they did. Yep,
but
yep.
uh, some of the keys to the game, which just like you had touched on earlier, I was extremely surprised by the final score of this game. I expected it to be a little more lopsided, but like you said, Chicago was able to force one turnover. The only turnover in this entire game was that one fumble.
Yep.
But you look at time of possession, which is key because New Orleans normally runs a very high-paced, no-huddle offense with Drew Brees there in the backfield, and Sean Payton likes getting his boys to the line and getting that offense moving. But you can totally see that with time of possession only almost dominated 2-1 by New Orleans,
Yep.
and as far as plays as well, 75 total plays for the Saints to only 49 of Chicago.
Yeah.
But one of the keys that Jim Miller and Pat Kerwin had talked about earlier was turnovers, and Trubisky, no turnovers on the day, which I was extremely impressed with some of the throws that he made, and that he didn't really try to force too many like we've been accustomed to seeing out of old Mitch. I think he still has a bright future in this league, whether that'll be in Chicago or not. I think the kid just needs a little more time and maybe a couple more offensive weapons to help that kid succeed.
Yeah, with only 10 incompletions on the day, I mean, 19 completions, 199 yards. I mean, he's roughly averaging 10 yards per completion. That's all you can really ask for out of your starting quarterback. One touchdown, no interceptions. He was only sacked once for 8 yards. So honestly, it was he did his part. Unfortunately for the Bears, they could not get their running game going. Their starting running back, what the hell is his name? David Montgomery only had 12
Hmm.
carries, 31 yards. That's only a 2.6 average. You're not going to help your young quarterback out averaging just 2.5 yards a carry. The longest run of the day for any Bear running back was 7 yards, and that was by Mitch Trubisky, who had 3 carries for 10 yards. Um, but I tell you what, he's got some good receivers, but a little bit quicker decisions. But I tell you what, if they get better offensive line work in the running game, that Bears offense could definitely have competed even better. I mean, hell, they only lost by 12 points. 12 points to the Saints. The Saints are one of the best teams in the league, especially in the NFC with Drew Brees and what the hell is that number 7 quarterback, the white guy that we love so much, um, out of Tulane or whatever the hell he's out of. He's we enjoy watching him play. Taylor Hill, Tatum Hill, Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill. That's his
Taysom Hill.
And even though he didn't attempt to pass today in this game, just his presence in the game is something that the defense needs to watch for. But I tell you what, if the Bears can improve that offensive line, they will have something they can work for. They can work forward to, and then eventually strengthen up that defense. But they played really well today for their first playoff game in quite a few years.
Right, exactly. And the other thing, too, is Drew Brees was spot on in this game. He was 28 for 39, 265, 2 touchdowns. He had an absolute gorgeous pass to, what's his name? Michael Thomas early in that first quarter, an absolute gorgeous pass across the middle. And makes you think. I would have said the same thing going back 2 years ago before the referees screwed New Orleans on that pass interference call against the Rams.
Yep.
But I think this year now, honestly, I don't think anybody out of the NFC is going to beat Green Bay, just for the way they're playing right now. Green Bay is definitely my favorite to come out of the NFC. But you have to start thinking that, Drew Brees is running out of years. This might be his best team, his last chance to make it to another Lombardi.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I mean, but honestly, I can say with confidence that the champion this year is going to come out of the AFC, because you got Buffalo, who is super strong, Baltimore, who is super strong. The Chiefs, obviously, the Chiefs can be beat, and nobody wants to see the Chiefs win again. But you've got you definitely have the Bills, who I know America is rooting for, just because of their success in the 90s, but then their horrible and gut-wrenching playoff or Super Bowl losses 4 straight years. So them winning their first playoff game since 1995. I mean, look at that. That is freaking 20 years. 20 freaking years. 25 years that these guys took until they won their next playoff game. It makes me wonder, the Broncos, we've been lucky. We've been lucky. We won 3 Super Bowls. The Bills have 0. So let's, but I honestly think that the Super Bowl champion is going to come out of the AFC. Whoever the winner is out of the AFC, they're going to walk away no matter who they play. I think Green Bay is good with Aaron Rodgers, but I think that team is just too old and too. I just think they're too old to compete with any of the AFC teams. I really do.
Well, I would have to agree with that, because you look at the way the tides have been turning. I mean, you look back, going back to the 80s and 90s, early 90s, it was nothing but NFC dominated Super Bowl victories.
14 straight years until the Broncos went ahead and kicked the shit out of I shouldn't say kick the shit out of, but beat the Packers in Super Bowl 32. It was 13 or 14 straight for the NFC.
Right. And still one of the best Super Bowls, I think, that had ever been played.
Well, it's obviously one of our favorites by all means. By all means, it is one of our favorites. Right. And I'm not. We're not being homers here, but we love the fact that the Broncos beat the Packers. John Elway.
Right. Absolutely. So now, closing out the first game that was part of Sunday's Super Wild Card tripleheader, which was today, was Baltimore at Tennessee. Now, I'll tell you what, a lot of people were shocked by this game, but I did pick Baltimore to beat Tennessee, and that's exactly what they did. I knew Baltimore would come in with a little bit of a chip on their shoulders here today, and that's exactly what they did. This was a very entertaining game to watch. Glad I was able to watch this one. It was a very hard-fought game. Felt a little bit old-school football-ish with all the players going at each other, but Baltimore able to come away with a 20-13 victory. And it doesn't take you very long to see exactly why they won this game. King Henry, Derrick Henry, rushing champion, should have been in the conversation for MVP this year, but he was not. Only 18 carries for 40 yards. That's a 2.2-yard average. Held within check by this Baltimore defense, who showed up to play in a big way today, Joey.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't really surprised by that. I didn't think the Titans presented that much of a threat. I was shocked last year, obviously, when Tennessee knocked Baltimore off on the road. But what they ended up doing was, obviously Travis Henry. That's the guy you got to stop if you're Baltimore. And they did just that. 18 carries, 40 yards.
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry,
Derrick
exactly.
Henry.
What did I say? What did I say?
Travis Henry.
Oh.
Travis Henry.
He's an old school safety for the Buffalo Bills. Sorry. But yeah, Derrick Henry, he had 18 carries for 40 yards. That's only a 2.2 average, no touchdowns, which left the game in Ryan Tannehill's hands, and obviously that proved to be successful for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson did what Lamar Jackson does. He runs the ball, unable to read a defense because he's a nigger quarterback, but he had 16 carries, 136 yards, and a touchdown, but he also threw 17 for 24, 179 with one interception. So the point is that Tennessee was unable to run the ball, but they were unable to stop Lamar Jackson. They just send guys out on pass routes, and because of a guy like him, like Patrick Mahomes, like Russell Wilson, these guys that don't know how to read a defense properly, and then they can use their legs to gain yards. And unfortunately, that's where the league is going. We're turning more to a college league than a more of a instead of more talent. That's why the guys like Tom Brady, those guys are kind of on their way out. He's going to be Tom Brady's one of the last guys we're going to see that's going to be a pocket passer that's going to be successful, because everybody's going to want these black quarterbacks that can run the ball, but unfortunately their time in the league won't last long because they're going to get a few pops from a couple white middle linebackers that are going to knock their head off. But Lamar Jackson did what he needed to do with his legs as a quarterback, not with his arm. That's how he beat that's how they beat the Titans, was with his legs.
Right. And then probably the biggest game that's happening here in Wild Card Weekend is the game that is starting here fairly shortly. Here is
in
the
less
Cleveland
than a minute.
Browns at Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Joey, a couple questions for you. Of all the COVID concerns that have surrounded Cleveland this week,
Yep.
with their head coach not being able to coach, a couple, I believe a left tackle, not sure of his name. He was one of the first ones with Kevin Stefanski to get the positive COVID result, and then also you factor in the fact that the Browns have only had one day of practice this week, when Pittsburgh has had a full week of preparation to play Cleveland, which they did play Cleveland final week of the season, which Pittsburgh had rested their starters. So Roethlisberger, a couple other key players did not play. So, Big J, what does Cleveland need to do? They're down a head coach. They only have 1 day of preparation. How exactly do you see this game happening tonight?
Well, I tell you what, the Browns players woke up this morning unsure if they're actually going to be able to play this game today. So to me, the Browns have nothing to lose. They, nobody's giving them a chance against the Steelers. Regardless of Week 16. Oh, we got some ESPN news here. Okay, that wasn't me. That was
Nuggets won.
The Nuggets won. All right,
that was me.
All right, Nuggets won. They'll be coming to my phone here shortly. But nobody's giving the Browns a chance, including me. The Steelers are one of the top teams in the AFC. even though their defense is not stout. Ben Roethlisberger is an aging quarterback, but you know Juju Smith-Schuster, if he does his dance at midfield today, chances are he's going to get his head knocked off. But they are at home, so that won't be just as bad as what he did at Cincinnati when he got his freaking head removed. But I tell you what, the Browns, they like I said earlier, they woke up this morning not unsure of whether or not they were actually going to be able to play this game. So they're going to come out. I believe the Browns are going to come out loose. They're going to come out with nothing to lose, and I think the Browns are going to jump up early on the Steelers. But I do think the Steelers, in the end, will prevail.
Okay, that's a very good point. Now, just to add on to that, as kickoff is just now underway.
Absolutely,
Pittsburgh
yep.
did receive.
They did, yes.
Just one more thing that I want to touch on. For as
All right,
much
well,
that I've
breaking
rooted
news.
for Pittsburgh
Breaking
this
news.
year,
Let me interrupt you. Breaking news. Play number 1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Roethlisberger fumbles the ball, and it is recovered by Cleveland for a touchdown. So the Cleveland Browns, 14 seconds into this playoff game, are up 7-0. Please continue.
wow, that is a
Huge play.
That's a blow right there.
Huge play. Yeah, a huge
Well,
blow.
then-
But Roethlisberger's used to getting blows in the bathroom. Go ahead.
This actually factors into what I was going to say. If Pittsburgh did somehow beat Cleveland, which I do think they will, there is no way that Pittsburgh's going to advance past the divisional round. I just don't see it. They're too much one-dimensional. Their running game is non-existent. The defense will only get you so far. I believe it was Bill Cowher who was coined with the phrase that the defense will get you to the playoffs, but quarterback play will win you a Super Bowl. And I just don't think Roethlisberger has enough in him this year, coming off of that bad injury last year with his elbow, I believe is what it was. Coming off that bad injury last year, he's just not mobile like he used to be. And he's just getting up there in age. I believe he's 39, 38, 39.
What are you trying to
just
say?
can't exactly do what we're accustomed to see him do.
All right, yeah, I agree with you there. But you know what? If he has good protection from that offensive line, that's that veteran quarterback in him that will lead them possibly to the AFC title game. I don't think they have enough to compete with the likes of Kansas City, Baltimore, even the Broncos. Let's just
Buffalo.
Let's just put it out there. Buffalo, yeah. Buffalo's the team that I really like and I'm rooting for in this playoffs. Just because of Josh Allen, because he's a big white guy and he has just showed me. I haven't watched many games of Buffalo this year, but I was able to watch a lot of the game from him, and he was super impressive. Now they did play the Chiefs earlier this year, a game which they lost. But of course, the refs were playing for the home team, just like the Chiefs are the new New England Patriots, so they get all the calls. They get everything that you need to beat teams that should beat you. So it's going to be
Right.
really difficult for anybody to beat the Chiefs at this point. But the Steelers, honestly, it doesn't matter who wins this game because neither team is going to make it out of the next round.
Right, exactly. But this also factors in is huge for next week's game, because you look at Kansas City, like you were mentioning earlier, they would play the lowest remaining seed, and then obviously Buffalo would play the highest remaining seed. So still, next week is not set on the AFC side. We still need to see exactly who wins here to know who goes where. But I do think that Buffalo this year has the most legitimate chance of representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. And I certainly hope that Josh Allen will continue to stay poised and do what he's been doing all year long, and take Buffalo to that next level. Because you look at past quarterbacks, he's still in Jim Kelly's shadow there in Buffalo. He was one of the most most likable guys in the NFL when he played, and another one of those great quarterbacks that is a Hall of Famer that did not get the opportunity to win a Lombardi Trophy, although he was there like you were saying 4 straight years, but unable to get it done.
Right.
So what we're gonna do to close out every episode, like my brother Big J said, we are diehard Bronco fans. So we're going to close out every episode talking about our Denver Broncos. So, Big J, my question is to you. As you know, 2 weeks ago, John Elway relinquished his GM position to take a higher role. Now, we're not exactly sure what that is. He's still president of football operations. We're not exactly sure what his new title is going to be. So this year started the search for the Denver Broncos' new GM. A couple names have come to mind. However, they have not interviewed the guy that I wanted, nor do I think would be the best fit, Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning, I think, would be a tremendous GM for our team. Knows how to evaluate players. He did it for 18 straight years and did a pretty damn good job at it. But anyway, a few names have jumped across the newsfeed here, which Denver had finished up their list of interviews via Zoom. Yesterday was their last interview with Dave Ziegler. Dave Ziegler, I believe, was the last one. But I was just informed that he will remain with the Patriots, so he's not interested in the Broncos GM job. So you take his name out of the board here, Big J. You got George Patton, Champ Kelly, and Terry Fontenot. Out of those names, who do you think? Or Fontenot. Sorry, didn't know who that guy was.
That's just how you pronounce that last name.
Fontenot, whatever. Whatever, Fontenot, whatever. He's not the right choice. But anyway, Big J, who do you think would stand to be the best fit for our Denver Broncos?
Honestly, I think maybe it's just being partial, but I think Brian Stark would be the best choice for us. He's an internal guy. He's a Broncos organization. He's been with the Broncos for 9 years now. In his 4th year with the team as the team's director of college scouting. He was promoted in 2017. He worked as a national scout, a Western regional scout, and a West Coast scout for the Broncos. He's one of the hardest working guys there. And he watches a ton of tape. So I honestly think that he would be the guy for us. That I think he would put the work in and find us solid players, because before arriving in Denver, he spent 9 seasons at San Diego State, where he worked with a variety of roles, including tight ends coach, director of football operations, and recruiting coordinator, and the passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach, which obviously we know that San Diego State has proved that their quarterbacks and their running backs through history have been pretty solid. So he is a Colorado native. He attended the University of Colorado in Boulder. So I think Brian Stark would be the guy that I would be excited about being the GM for the Denver Broncos.
Okay. Me personally, I've always been a fan of Champ Kelly. I know he's with the Chicago Bears right now, but he again does have ties with the Denver Broncos. As you look at, he was in charge of he was the assistant coordinator of pro and college scouting for the Broncos in 08 to 09. And he was there all the way until the year that we hired Vic Fangio, or Coach Fangio. So he worked under Elway for those 4 years. And I honestly think that he or either that internal guy that you were talking about, Stark, would be a excellent choice.
Well, what I really like about Kelly is the fact that he did work with Vic in Chicago, and there would be some normalcy, some commonality there. Is that even a word? I don't even know, but commonality, that's what I'm going with. But commonality between him and Vic.
Makes sense to me. So.
Yep, and with John's expertise as well, even though our drafts haven't been strong, I think having him in there with Vic and with John, I think that's a three-headed beast that we could find some true talent in the later rounds.
Right. Exactly. And now, questions arise. What is Denver going to do with that ninth pick in that first round? Now, I am a big believer in Drew Lock, and I think that our sample size of Drew Lock only starting 18 games, I think our sample size is still extremely small to make any determination right now. I think he does show a lot of potential. I think that game against Vegas, last game of the year, he showed incredible poise in the pocket, especially that 92-yard, especially that 92-yard pass to Jerry Jeudy. To give them the lead late in that game, I think, or what to make the game closer. I believe they were down by 3 at that point, late in the game. So I think for what Denver needs to do is they need to draft extremely hard on the defensive side. Now I do like that inside linebacker and cornerback to be that first pick. Now, whether they go that route or not, some say that we're going to try to trade up to get a quarterback, which I think is a huge mistake and a ginormous waste of a first-round pick.
I agree.
Build around Drew Lock, see what he has. I think he has the abilities to be a successful quarterback, and maybe our franchise answer here that we've been looking for God, it seems like forever.
Well, I tell you what, we're aging on defense. We definitely need help on the offensive line, right guard, right tackle especially. We need help on, and that's what hurt us this year. COVID, obviously, that removed our starting right tackle. We lost Vaughn early in the season, or before the season even started. We lost Cortland Sutton week 1, so Drew lost a lot of help, basically. So I think Drew has a lot. I think his ceiling is unlimited. I'll be honest with you. We have a good running tandem in the backfield. We've got speed, we've got power, thunder and lightning in the backfield with Melvin Gordon, with Lindsey. ESPN. I think with Noah Fant, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, we've got so many young studs on offense. We need to shore up that defensive line. We need to find a solid replacement for Von Miller, which is going to be coming up here in the next couple of years. We definitely need help on the backside, which is a cornerback, strong safety. But I think we need to keep going with what we have. I think what we have we've showed versus Miami. Miami was a hot team coming into Denver, and we beat the shit out of them. Our defense shut them down, and our offense ran all over their defense. And they were one of the hottest teams in the league at that time. So we showed that we have that potential to be a top team in the league, take the injuries away, bring back our fans, and I think it's a completely different season. Take our injuries out. But we need to have solid backup. So we need a good backup for Von Miller because, like I said, in the next couple of years he's going to be retiring most likely, and John wants him to retire as a Bronco, which so do I. So even if he's just filling a roster spot but can't produce, I still want him on our roster. But we definitely need to shore up that defense because, as we saw in 2015, it doesn't matter how shitty our offense is. If we have a solid defense, we can win Super Bowls.
Right, exactly right. And you're talking about shoring up the defense. Job one has to be signing Justin Simmons to a long-term deal this offseason. That has to be done.
And you cannot, and you can't do that if you go after that son of a bitch from Houston. We can't be trading 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick for Deshaun Watson. I don't give a damn. He's not going to propel our team to the next level. Drew Lock is who we need, and we need to build what we have. We need to build our offensive line, build our defensive line, and build our cornerbacks. That's what we need. That's it. And if you bring in Deshaun Watson, now you have more holes to fill because you can't afford to have Justin Simmons. You can't afford to have Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. We need a middle linebacker. We need a solid middle linebacker, which we don't have right now. Right. We can't fill those holes if we're spending all this money.
We need somebody to offset Alexander Johnson.
Yes, exactly. We can't fill, and we won't be able to do that if we spend $150 million on a freaking quarterback out of Houston that really hasn't proved himself as a winner, a guy that can carry a team. Because Houston has been a solid team. They have a solid defense, and he still can't win with them. So how the hell are we going to be any different from the Houston Texans? That would be a huge waste, and I don't even know why the hell that's even being brought up. And that pisses me off. Sorry. All right, let me step off my soapbox.
I honestly don't think a trade to. They were talking about that earlier. That if Watson does want out of Houston, which rumors say he does because he wasn't involved in the GM decision. You know what? You're there to throw a football. They're gonna give you what you get.
Yep.
But they said a viable landing spot for Watson will be Miami, which makes you think, well, they have Tua as their first round draft pick that they got last year. Well, they're talking about swapping those two players and a handful of picks to make up that added salary. Now, granted, that may happen, but and Watson would work with Miami's offense. Well, Miami's offense, Houston's offense, compared to Denver's offense, is miles apart. Denver still runs a primarily based West Coast offense with Pat Shurmur. So you don't need a super mobile quarterback. You need a mobile enough to run the bootlegs, which is exactly what Drew Lock is.
Yeah.
Now you take that, another key guy that flourished in our West Coast offense, and this dates back for as long as I can remember. But you look at Jake Plummer, a somewhat decent quarterback when he played for Arizona. Denver brought him in, fit his scheme perfectly, and he flourished. He was one of the best quarterbacks in that 4-year span with Denver and took them to the AFC Championship game, not to mention beating Tom Brady in the divisional round with a so-so defense, which our defense was decent. We had Champ Bailey, DJ Williams, middle linebacker. I mean, we had a stout defense, but nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
But flourished. So I think, with Shurmur coming back as a second year and finally getting some continuity on that offensive side, I think that's going to be nothing but, sky's the limit for Drew Lock in this offense coming up next year. If we can stay healthy, compete. We may not be able to compete with the Chiefs, and I'm fine with that. And I honestly think, coming into this next year, that Denver's going to be playing for one of those wild card spots, whether it stays with the 7 or goes back to the 6. Not exactly sure what's going to happen. And if they add that 17th week to the NFL season, or that 18th week to the NFL season, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play in now.
Yeah.
I think Denver. Denver's still 2 years away from competing for that AFC West. But without a doubt, I think that Denver will be a playoff contender next year. And, all you really need to do is get into the playoffs, because how many wild card teams have we seen go to the Super Bowl and win? More than I can count.
Yep.
So all you have to do is make it to the dance. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, and also if you look at the last 2 years, Chubb and Vaughn have not had each other, and that's huge. If we can get a full season with Vaughn and Chubb injury free, then I think that puts our defense up the next notch. Top 5 defense in the league, because I think our corners are good enough.
Right.
I think our safeties are good enough, but obviously we'll add a couple key free agents, I believe. We lost some huge defensive tackles in preseason. Even though we didn't have a preseason, we lost them in preseason practice. We had 2 huge signings on the defensive line last offseason. We lost both of them before the season even started. We got one of those guys from the Tennessee Titans. That was one of their big guys that they had that helped them stop the run, helped them on their playoff run last year. And obviously, we were able to beat them this year during the regular season in Denver. But if we can stay healthy, we can compete with anybody. Even with all the injuries we had, we only lost to the Chiefs by 7 points just a few weeks ago when we played them. So, and they are the 1 seed. So
Right.
there's no doubt about it. With our defense, we're still solid enough with Vic's defensive mindset, and if Pat Shurmur can get our offense in line, get a little bit better protection for Drew, and perhaps maybe slow down his clock a little bit so he doesn't get so much happy feet and throw balls that he shouldn't throw, kind of like I do with Kyle Allen. But I think the sky's the limit for this team. I think we're on the right path. I think we probably have one of the youngest teams in the league, but we have so many young stud players. We need to strike. We need to strike as soon as we can.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And to note that last time I saw, I do believe we have the youngest offense in the NFL coming into this year.
That's even better.
I believe we have the youngest offense.
Well, I tell you what, all this talk about football
So-
makes me want to break out Madden on the old PS4. So that's probably where Big J and the Beard will be heading after this one. Can I get an amen?
Sounds like a plan.
Can I get a hallelujah? All right. Well, this has been.
So,
Yeah. Go ahead, Beard.
well, I was just going to ask if there was anything more you wanted to add about the playoffs, Denver Broncos, before we close up this first episode.
You know what? I'm happy with what we've talked about. I'm really itching to get into this football game. I've got a big one coming up here against the Patriots, who have yet to win a game. Honestly, in real life, I'm excited and happy that we're doing this. I guess you'd call it a podcast, if you will, on YouTube. I'm excited and looking forward to what the future brings. I wish it wasn't so late in the season that we started this, but we'll definitely be able to continue this, and we'll find plenty of stuff to talk about throughout the weeks.
Exactly right. So I'd like to thank everybody that joined us for the first ever episode of The Playmakers with Big J and the Beard. And we will be signing off. We'll be back with you next Sunday to wrap up the wild card game, and looking forward to divisional weekend, as we'll have plenty of games to cover then. Big J, I appreciate the time. Thank you for joining me. And for all of our guys here at Big J and the Beard, thank you for joining us. Good night.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy them playoffs. Go Broncos.